G'day folks, here's my top 20 releases from Nuclear Blast Records. G'day folks, Jeff here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing another label retrospective top 20 list. This one, Nuclear Blast Records from Germany. Now, these guys have been around a while. Founded in 1987 by Marcus Stager. He doesn't own them anymore. I think in 2018 he sort of sold them to, I can't remember who, and formed Atomic Fire, which then got bought by Raining Phoenix Music. So yeah, he's one of the masterminds behind that, I think. Now, Nuclear Blast's got a massive catalogue, so it's invariable I'll miss plenty of things that you might like. So feel free to leave a comment below on what your top 20 for Nuclear Blast would be. Unsurprisingly, my list, it's mostly old death metal. Much like a few other labels of their time, they started off doing sort of hardcore, punky, metally sort of stuff, and then quickly got into death metal. They've kind of pivoted to power metal and black metal not too long after, actually. Now this is a bit confusing because they did have a deal with Relapse Records in America, so there's a batch of stuff that kind of was released on this, but was also released on on Relapse, so which I covered in my Relapse one, which I'll put a link to. So yeah, there's no Amorphous in this, or General Surgery, or Mind Rot, or Suffocation's first EP, so that was all in the other one. So as per usual, this is only one album per band, and no releases that they didn't originally release. So there's a batch of sort of Germany-only releases of like Emperor and Satyricon that would definitely be on this list, but doesn't quite count for my side of things. So these days, I mean, Nuclear Blast is still going, even though they got sold to some rather major label, I think. It seems these days to be a bit of a dumping ground for elderly bands, you could say. So I've tried not to focus on those sort of ones too much. I mean, there's some legendary bands, but whether the albums that they're releasing now are legendary is another matter. But I mean, that said, there is a batch of bands I don't even recognise that, based on their name, that are in the current roster. So yeah, it's unsurprisingly, this is mostly older stuff, but there's a bit of newish sort of stuff. And yeah, sorry if you can hear some fan noise in the background. It's freaking hot here. So I've got the fan on tough luck. Usually I record these at night, but I want to get it over with during the day. So yeah, it's kind of warm in my study. So yeah, apologies if it comes through. I'm hoping it doesn't. So, but anyway, let's get into it. All right, so number 20 is Stormtroopers of Death with Bigger Than the Devil. This came out in 1999. So yeah, this is obviously the second album from SOD. This is 14 years after the last one, or the first one, and supposedly it was due to Anthrax not doing particularly well at the time. There's a story of Scotty and Ring begging bloody Billy Milano to get it back together, but who knows? It's probably horrible slander, but anyway. I'm glad they did, because it's bloody cool. Plus there's some cool live footage of them around then, so... But yeah, this is their second album. I mean, honestly, it's not a patch on this. Like, not much is. If this didn't come out on Megaforce and came out on Nuclear Blast, this would be number one by a mile. So, but at any rate, this still damn good, I reckon. It's still got that really killer sort of, hardcore metal crossover sort of style. It's a bit more modern groove metal in parts, which is no real surprise, seeing it's from 1999. And plus, Charlie is in Pantera now. So, but yeah, on this, they sound bloody great. I mean, it's quite a bit better production than the first album, although I absolutely adore the first album so much. Billy sounds great on this, real throaty sort of yells. Some amusing, silly songs like the Song That Don't Go Fast, and I always love Celtic Frosted Flakes. It's got some damn fine lyrics, I think. But yeah, there's like killer hardcore songs on here, like Xerox. I absolutely love Charlie Don't Cheat. Really shows Charlie Bonate's drumming skills. He's a fast lad. I mean, they even get like Roger from Agnostic Front shares vocals on, what is it, I think We All Bleed Red. So yeah, it's just a really good mixture of stuff. Like, you never hear this album talked about much. First album, sure, but never much about this one. They also redo Aren't You Hungry with the proper imitation of life, like the riff out of the Anthrax song. Yeah, they cleaned the lyrics up a bit from the MOD one, which is Not good. I mean, they also like take the piss out of Korn on Latch, I think, and this is, of course, has a couple of ballads. The ballad of Michael Hutchins is a good one, but yeah, the ballad of Phil Hartman, still smarts. It's one of the very few celebrity deaths that actually really quite upset me. So yeah, bastards. Plus, they didn't even use like a Lionel Hutz line or something. It's like just a Simpsons theme song and then a doe, which he didn't even do. Anyway, I digress. This is a bloody great album. So yeah, and I mean, love that piss take on Number of the Beast, of course. So yeah, number 20. Now this next band we're going to go on the old bands that aren't too bad but not amazing. But then I re-listened to it and was like, oh shit, it's bloody rules. Carcass. Surgical Steel. This came out in 2013. Now they've only got 2 albums to choose from on Nuclear Blast. Also Torn Arteries, the latest album, which is pretty good, but this one's really quite good, I reckon. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is not amazing compared to, Necroticism or Symphonies of Sickness, which is my favourite by a mile. But this is still damn good, I reckon. This is their first release since like 1995 when they did Swan Song. I think they had reformed in 2007 just for some gigs and so on, and with the Arch Enemy Boys, and then just kept going. Did this. So this is just Jeff and Bill with their drummer Dan, who wasn't even born when Recapitulation came out, but does a damn good job. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty clean sounding. It's really just a mix of Necroticism and Heartwork, because why not? I'm sure they're easily their biggest sellers. So yeah, nothing too surprising. Although that said, there's a bit of sort of thrash to this in parts, which is a bit of a surprise, I suppose. Really clean production from Colin Richardson, but yeah, I mean, their last couple of albums were pretty bloody clean. So, and I mean, honestly, I would have loved it, but if people were expecting another Symphonies, they're dreaming, really. So yeah, I reckon this bloody rules. I really like, Unfit for Human Consumption. It's got this killer sort of gallop speed up thing that they do, and that's one of the kind of thrashier ones. I think the Master Butcher's Apron's got that sort of speed up and slow down sort of style from Necroticism. So, but yeah, I mean, all up, pretty bloody decent, I reckon. So again, this is one of those bands in the twilight of their career. Although that said, Carcass still going strong. They're bloody touring a heap these days, slowly working their way up bills. I'm really pleased to see them pretty high on bills these days on big festivals with, they're still playing death metal and they're getting their way up. So good work. So yeah, as I said, Torn Arteries doesn't quite grab me as much, but upon re-listen, it's still pretty bloody decent. So yeah, keep going, Carcass. You're going all right. All right, for number 18, we go up to Norway to our good mates Immortal. Yes, those fine chaps. They got 4 albums on Nuclear Blast. This is the latest one, War Against All. Didn't really blow me away, I got to say. So that's not number 18. Neither is this one, Northern Chaos God. So this is the first one back with Demon Az after he resurrected the band. So Noah Bath, and pretty bloody good, but not blowing me away. Before that was All Shall Fail, which, yeah, I don't actually own. I probably should, especially after watching Brain Smash's quality video on Immortal. I'll put a link to that below. But yeah, he talked it up good, and I must admit I really love the film clip that goes with that. Oh, it's beautiful. But my actual winner for this, and contrary to what Paul Brain Smasher says, is Sons of Northern Darkness, their album from 2002. So this is the second last one with a Bath. This is their sort of later style, so the slower, kind of chunkier kind of style that it's probably not even particularly black metal, really, to tell the truth. But I do love, there's still some fast stuff on here. One by One's a really good opener. I think Demonium's a fast one as well. But I kind of like the slower, chunkier sort of feel to this. As I said, nothing's going to beat Pure Holocaust for me or Battles in the North, but this is them trying something different and doing it quite well, I think. It definitely feels a bit more epic than Damned in Black, the album before that apparently I don't own. I mean, as far as the sort of more epic stuff, this is probably the At the Heart of Winter is probably the better one to tell the truth, but it didn't come out on Nuclear Blast, so that doesn't count, but this does. So yeah, I really like this. Tyrants is a sort of mid-paced banger, and it just works really well with the sound on this. Sounds bloody nice, except for one thing: drums. Oh, always plastic and horrible sounding. I mean, Hawk's damn fine drummer, don't get me wrong, but the sound on this is terrible. I don't know how. Like, this is Peter Tagrin, Abyss Studios, knows what he's doing usually, but on this, nah. Especially, you could definitely hear it on the start of the title track. It's just like, oh. And I seem to recall seeing him live on, might have been this tour or the one, no, I think it was the album after this maybe. And I mean, they played well, but all you could really hear was vocals and drums. It was very disappointing, I've got to say. So, yeah, I'm pleased with the newer Demonaz stuff, that the drums are a little more under control, but on this, it's about the only spoiler. Within the Dark Mind, it even has like Slayer sounding riffing to me for some weird reason. I really love In My Kingdom Cold, there's a bit where it's like this chunky slow riff, and then he goes, and here we go again, and it kicks back in. Oh, no. Stupid, but I just love it so much. And I mean, the last song, Beyond the North Waves, just goes full Bathory. I mean, they're always pretty damn Bathory-ish. I'll still never forget with Immortal. I was well familiar with a couple of albums. I was late to Bathory, I got to admit, and I finally got a copy of Under the Sign of the Black Mark, and just was like, what the hell? Immortal just stole every bloody bit off Bathory. What's going on? So this, I mean, it's later era Bathory for Beyond the North Waves, and songs about Vikings and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of cool. So and plus, I mean, it's got a nice little speed up and then a kind of faster riff that kicks in. It's just tough as hell. So yeah, it's not the perfect album by any means. That's why it's number 18, but I do really like what they were trying on this. They didn't always 100% succeed. It is a little slow in parts, or no, not slow, just uninteresting, I gotta say, but still damn fine album. All right, number 17, Benediction and Subconscious Terror from 1990. So it's a pretty old one. So yeah, this is Birmingham death metal. This is pretty much the definition of meat and potatoes death metal to me. Honestly, I bought this because it's got Barney on it from Napalm Death. It's a huge Napalm fan, still am. So I was like, oh yeah, I got to check that one out. And he does sound pretty bloody good on it, but I mean, plus, look at that cover art. That's cool as. I still reckon they stole that from somewhere. It's not credited to anyone whatsoever. There's a couple of Nuclear Blast ones that just don't seem to be credited to anyone, so I think they just found them in an obscure book and went, yoink, that'll do. So yeah, this has got like, this ain't the perfect album, I've got to say, really. It starts with like a spooky FX intro sort of thing with Barney doing his like death talking. Yeah, honestly, the latest stuff is a bit better, really, but I kind of like the simplicity here, and of course, Barney is definitely one of the highlights. I mean, these guys, pretty straight death metal. They've definitely heard Master and Death quite a few times, I think. And I mean, the drummer Ian is, yeah, let's just say he's a graduate from the School of Basic Drumming by Bill Andrews. It's he holds the beat, I'll give him that, but nothing exciting whatsoever, which does sort of drag this down a bit, I got to say. I think it's Artifacted Irreligion is like pretty bloody damn fine mid-pace sort of crusher one with Barney yelling faster. It's honestly one of the highlights for me is all Barney's weird vocalizations that he does in it. It's got a bit where he's like, thrash motherfuckers. And then there's I think it's Divine Ultimatum's got a let's skank. And but definitely one of the highlights. And I mean, I really like these songs, but they're also kind of good to laugh at. Spit Forth the Dead, which is a killer song, but it's just got some death laughter from Barney and then a wipe out. So loud, it's hilarious. Honestly, until I sort of started, like re-listening to this and writing notes on it, I never even noticed this was produced by Mick Harris from like Napalm drummer. I hope they didn't pay him too much because it ain't perfect, that's for sure. I don't know, there's just bits that sound like they messed up and just left them in. I don't know, maybe they had like no budget and no time to do it, but And there's like cymbal work on, I think it's Grizzled Finale. Maybe it's just really clunky sort of songwriting. I don't know, but it ain't perfect, that's for sure. Now, after this, they had, I don't actually own that much really of these guys. This is a Grand Level. This is their second album. This sounds a shitload better. Songs are a bit smoother and so on, but they're still kind of plodding, I've got to say. Honestly, Transcend the Rubicon, their third album's probably the best one. I mean, by here they'd already changed to Dave Ingram singing, who sounds very much like Barney, I tend to think. So Transcend the Rubicon's definitely a better album than this, but I don't know, this is something I had this for a very long time. This is a pretty early one that I got, so always loved this one. So yeah, Benediction, number 17. Number 16 it's one of the legacy bands that are actually still producing amazing bloody work. Immolation. This is their 2017 album Atonement. So they've been on Nuclear Blast since Majesty and Decay. But this one, out of the four albums, I think this one stands out as my favourite, I think. This is the first album with Alex Books from like Agoraphobia and Incantation, Funebrarum and Ruinous. So I don't know if he writes. I'm not sure who writes what, but can't hurt having his talents there, that's for sure. Now with these guys, Unholy Cult's still my favourite album, as I think I've said before. I'm really hoping one day it'll get a vinyl reissue. Come on, fellas. But yeah, this album is probably the standout of the more recent stuff, I'd say. I mean, one thing I like about Unholy Cult is it kind of straddles this newer sort of chunkier style with the older, more chaotic style. And I think this one does similar sort of thing as well. So I think it's When the Jackals Comes, got like this nice sort of moody kind of sections that just works really well for these guys. At this point, drummer Steve had been with the band for 14 years, so he's very well fit in now, perfectly integrated for a really dynamic sort of performance. He does great on this, and actually kind of reminds me of their old drummer Craig with he's getting a bit more chaotic like Craig's style. Although that said, I really kind of don't like the start cymbal bit of Fostering the Divide. Just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. I mean, the rest of the song's great, but just that start, I don't know. Occasionally, Immolation have these weird bits that just like don't quite work for me. You know, like 95% of it works, but occasionally there's just odd bits. But thankfully, this has got a really good sound, and good sound for him as well, because sometimes the drums have sounded a bit too plasticky for my liking on some of their other albums. So it's a bloody winner on this, I'd say. Plus, I mean, Ross sounds like a demon on this. These vocals just get nastier and more intense as it goes on, but still clear and just powerful. Plus, I mean, my version has a bonus track of the song Immolation from the first album re-recorded, so yeah, you can't go wrong with that. So yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with any Immolation album, really. They're masters of death metal, but this one is probably their best Nuclear Blast one, I reckon. One of the biggest bands on Nuclear Blast, good old Dimmu Borgir. These guys come in at number 15 for their puritanical euphoric misanthropia from 2001, it looks like. Yeah. You may not have expected to see this on there, but I really like this album. I don't actually own that much Dimmu, I've got to say. I've got like a copy somewhere of the album before this. Obviously own Death Cult Armageddon or whatever it's called, and I think I got Stormblast somewhere, but this one, it's just right for me, I think. They really ramped up the symphonic sort of stuff here. You know, they got the Gothenburg Opera Orchestra playing all the actual classical stuff, which sounds a lot better than plonky keyboard. Yeah, I think they start with... They actually go back a ways with Nuclear Blast. I think Enthroned Darkness Triumphant's their first release, which I don't think I even own. So, yeah, I did really like Spiritual Black Dimensions, the album before this. Possibly due to the insight and the catharsis, just the vortex bit on that, so bloody good. But this one, I don't know, this one hits just right. It's the start of Golder's run with them as the lead guitarist replacing Estenu. It's also got Nick Barker on this, who is just a beast on drums. I got to say, he is a tad loud on this. It's one of the downsides of this, but yeah, when you're playing that intensely. Bit of extra volumes, not that bad. So yeah, this is. I mean, this is cornball as hell. I really gotta say, you know what Dimmu sound like. I really like Kings of the Carnival Creations got some nice sort of Vortex stuff, and it's just epic. When I say Vortex, I mean the singer Vortex who does the clean bits, not the other. Who's the singer? Shagrath, who does the snarly bits. What is it? Hybrid Stigmata, the Aposty. It's one of my favorites. They do it really well. They're mixing the classical with the metal stuff. Not too many bands actually succeed with it. One of the ones we're getting to a bit later does. Obviously, you know, stuff like Celtic Frost into the Pandemoniums. It's my high point, I think, of classical intertwined with metal stuff. But they do it really well on this. I don't know. There's just certain sort of bits just do it so well. I mean, I think that song does have a poxy, weird dance metal sort of bit that just makes no sense, but I still quite enjoy that. And I mean, it actually Shagrath sounds like he's sort of channeling Mr. Doctor from Devil Doll on Architecture of a Genocidal Nature. I don't know, just that sort of weird, strange style that Mr. Doctor has. Puritania's got some nice sort of symphonic stuff. Just works really well with the chunky sort of riffing beneath it. I actually really like Indoctrination as well. It's just got this sort of build-up bit of classical. I can't put my finger on what bit I thought it was like Peter and the Wolf, but then I listened to that and it's like, nah, that's not it. It's just some, famous bit of classical music that it reminds me of. Just this little sort of build-up that just kicks in mightily well, and Blast Galore, I think it's that song. Symposium, it's got like the symphonics. It reminds me of like some action adventure movie from the 60s or something. I don't know, this is weird. Plus, I mean, this version I think has Burn in Hell, Twisted Sister cover, which they do bloody well. I think that'll be on one of my future damn good transformative covers, because their version's bloody nice on this, especially when Vortex does the Hear No Evil chorusy sort of bits called Clean. I don't know, there's something about it. I mean, it helps that the song itself is bloody killer as well. So I find this really bloody good. Just symphonic metal. I mean, Emperor kicked their ass, honestly, but this is still bloody damn fine in its own right, that's for sure. Alright, the symphonic metal continues. Number 14 is Therion with their Lemuria and Sirius B albums. Now, these are two albums that are released exactly at the same time. Mine's like a 2-disc version of it. So I put them together. I consider it one release, even though it's two separate albums. But they're recorded at the same time, same band, all that sort of stuff. So not sure why they did it that way, but because I think you could buy them individually. At any rate, I've got the mega box set. So yeah, with Therion, I love the early death metal era. They featured on my Swedish death metal album, and it wasn't this one, that's for sure. So yeah, after their first couple of albums of really damn fine Swedish death metal, there's like Ho Drakon, whatever the hell it's called. It's pretty good, but after that was like Thelian, Lapaka, Clifford. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that era. I think I was spoiled by the Beauty in Black single. That I heard that after, the death metal-y stuff, and just went, oh, nah, I don't think so. Although, that said, I forgot how good the song Riders of Theli is with the gruff vocals. Sounds bloody great. They did improve quite a bit with Woven and Secret of the Runes, which are still damn fine peak sort of symphonic stuff. But this one, I don't know, these two, sorry, they just hit perfectly. After this, they sort of went a little, like Gothic Kabbalah, the album after these ones, still pretty bloody nice. But after that, it just gets a little less metal, a little more symphonic, and they've got a lot of bloody albums, like three of those Leviathan albums, I think. So they're still spitting them out. They just seem a bit long. This one, I don't know, it's just the right era, I think. This one, I mean, helps that it starts with Typhon, which is, like male and female opera-y kind of vocals, but then gets metal as hell and has like semi-growled vocals from Chris, like the original singer and main dude of the band. First time in ages that he's done any growly sort of work. I mean, it's not like, Frank Mullen sort of growling or anything, but still pretty heavy for this album. And yeah, all the songs are just very grand sounding, I've got to say. Uthark Ruiner is a bloody nice one. There's a couple of what's the other one? Dreams of Swedenborg, sort of mellow kind of one. Like, and this is where I discovered Mats Levén. He's like a singer on only a couple of songs. He's on about 4 or 5 songs on this, I think. They have a lot of different people singing and doing all sorts of different pieces. But yeah, he's got a really powerful, dramatic, but slightly gravelly kind of clean voice. I always liked his style. I was actually pleased to see him play with Countermass the only time I've seen him. I mean, I would love to have seen him with the 3 other singers, at least 3 other main ones, but he did a damn fine job, really bloody good. So this does also have Peter, the old drummer, and I think a member of like Carbonized also sings in full clean sort of dramatic sort of style. Plus, I mean, there are male and female opera singers, and there's a whole, Prague Philharmonic Orchestra in the background as well. So it's very dramatic, very detailed kind of songs. And on the other side, I think Son of the Sun's just catchy as hell. I've always found, honestly, I say I've listened to Lemuria probably a lot more than Sirius B, because after 48 minutes or whatever, however long Lemuria is, it's like, I don't know if I can handle another whole CD of this sort of stuff. Give me some grindcore or something. So I've always found Sirius B slightly lighter a bit. I don't think it really is that much, but maybe it just doesn't have the growly vocals on it. But still rules as well. So I could ramble on about each song, so I won't, because I don't want this video to be an hour and a half. But for later era, this is mid-era by now, but for the non-pure death metal Therian, this I reckon is the peak. Bloody awesome. Alright, number 13. It's quite an old one from 1989. We've got Defecation with Purity Dilution. So yeah, this is only number 18 of Nuclear Blast releases, so getting pretty early. So yeah, this is Mitch and Mick Harris, no relation, from Napalm Death. Wow, I think Mitch is still officially with Napalm Death, Mick obviously not. Yeah, this is a sort of project they did. I think Mick went on holidays to America and hung out with Mitch in Vegas, where he lives, and they just fart-assed around and wrote some grindy stuff that unsurprisingly sounds quite a bit like Napalm Death, or, Unseen Terror, or Extreme Noise Terror, or Terrorizer. Lots of terror going on. Yeah, pretty raw sound, but it really does quite suit the music, I've got to say. Both are credited with vocals on this, but I think majority is probably Mitch, because there's only a handful of, Mick's crazed sort of screams of he's got a distinct sound, that's for sure. This is definitely from before Napalm, well, the from Enslavement era of Napalm version split up, because he thanks Lee and Bill as Napalm Death. So yeah, this was just them mucking around, I think. Songwriting wise, you can really see why Mitch fit very well in with Napalm Death. I mean, I don't know who wrote what on this, but yeah, it does sound very much like, what's that, Mentally Murdered, or, Harmony Corruption era sort of stuff. The liner notes say that I think they recorded this in Vegas. The tape got lost and then found and taken to England to mix or whatever, but the studio didn't do 1-inch tape or something like that, so they had to re-record the whole thing anyway. So I don't know what happened to the original version of this. I wonder if that had ever done the rounds, or if it's worth having a look at. But anyway, there is a second one. Mitch put out a second album just by himself in 2003 that I don't own, but I don't recall it blowing me away particularly. Amusingly, there's like some dodgy Spanish label put out a new Defecation album with neither of them on it, with their full logo and everything, pretending that they were Defecation. Got sued, unsurprisingly. Amusingly, there's like a Russian unofficial version on bootlegs. I mean, not bootlegs, Discogs, sorry. Freudian slip there. But yeah, this album, it sounds like late 80s grindcore, nasty as hell. Pretty bloody catchy, I've got to say. So, as I said, you like that era of Napalm, you'll love these guys. All right, number 12, and from 1992, we've got Sinister with Cross the Sticks. Now, this is very dense Dutch death metal. They know what they're doing on this. It's really quite intense. Mostly really quite fast death metal, I've got to say. Really well written because it's just fast but smooth as hell changes. Chunky ass riffing all the way through. This isn't actually a original Nuclear Blast one. This is a Cosmic Key Creations reissue, but Nuclear Blast put it out originally. And this is one of those bands that I kind of missed back in the day, I got to say, for some reason. Just didn't have copies of these. Don't know why. But yeah, since I've finally got around to it, it's like, oh shit, this is damn good. I listen to this quite regularly, I got to say. I think it's Putrefying Remains has pure Deicide sort of start, although this came out like 6 months before Legion, so I wonder if maybe Deicide were quite familiar with the old Sinister, who knows. And I think, as I said, I only got this, I only got the actual record a couple of months ago at least. As I said, there's this weird, like, in between tracks 2 and 3, there's like this, you can just hear it, and if you've got headphones on, it says, Alex, fuck you, just in the background. I'm assuming they're talking about Alex Kroll, a guy from Atrocity who produced this, but yeah, it's an odd thing to have on there. But yeah, I really like these guys, especially this vocalist that they had then, Mike, I think his name is. Really powerful, deep sort of voice, but just forceful. It's tough as hell. I bet he absolutely destroyed live. I did actually just miss these guys. I just toured Australia a month or two ago, but I was up on that boat. That doesn't sound great, and during the week I just couldn't be bothered. Getting old. At any rate, but yeah, on this, the riffs are the highlight. It's just, there's a lot. It's I think Doomed is probably my favourite song on here. It's just like twisting, muscular sort of riffs. I mean, the second album, Diabolical Summoning, it's a ripper, as well as is Hate, the third one. Kind of haven't really got anything beyond that. So this album, yeah, tough as hell. Love it. Just. All right, number 11 is Master with their self-titled album from 1990. This is death metal, and very old-sounding death metal, I've got to say. This really does sound kind of like a combination of Repulsion meets like Slaughter Strappado. I mean, most of these songs are written in 1985. Some weird reason, like they did an album back then, but then had problems releasing it. It did eventually get released as a master album. But for some reason they re-recorded it in 1990, but then the re-record wasn't good enough. So then they went to Morrisound to do a third version of it, which they did, but then that didn't sound good enough. But it was later released as the Speckman Project. Even though it's got different songs to this, I'd never understand that. So then this is apparently the second version, properly mixed by Scott Burns. Don't know what's going on. Sounds pretty bloody good though, I got to say. So yeah, it's kind of weird though. Half of this are Deathstrike songs, and Deathstrike was a band around the same time, 1985. Both had Paul Speckman, the main dude, the bass player and vocalist, and Chris, the guitarist as well. So I don't know why they were different bands, because they sound pretty bloody similar. They had different drummers, obviously, so maybe that's why. But yeah, I really do have to track down that Deathstrike demo. I think that's all there really is of Deathstrike, other than some live ones. So yeah, this album is sort of half Deathstrike songs. It sound pretty similar anyway, really. It starts with like Pledge Your Allegiance, which is like metal version that, I'm not a big fan of. But what is it? Mangled Dehumanization's a bloody ripper on this. Plus, I think that's a Deathstrike song, and Pay to Die is definitely a Deathstrike song, and that song absolutely rules. Just catchy as hell. You know, old, early death thrash sort of stuff, really. Funeral Bitch is another ripper on this. For some reason this has like a bass solo, and then a cover of Children of the Grave by Black Sabbath, obviously. I like their version. It's a little fast for my liking, but the when the organs kick in on that mega riff halfway through, it sounds pretty bloody cool, I gotta say. There's a song on here, the song Terrorizer, which supposedly inspired the band, for their name. I don't know, it seems wasted on here. It's an instrumental. I mean, it's just a normal sort of song, just with no vocals, and it's like written in 1985. It's not like they had like 5 years to write lyrics for it, so I don't know why that's instrumental. It just seems a bit of a waste. My version actually comes with like bonus tracks as well. It's got like original mixed versions of Pledge of Allegiance, Re-Entry / Destruction, and Terrorizer, and yeah, they sound shit. I don't really see the point, honestly. Terrorizer just goes on way too long, so yeah, the main core album of this absolutely rules. You can see why so many bands were influenced by these guys, because yeah, I'm assuming that first 1985 album probably did the rounds on the trading circuit and so on, because a lot of bands were quite inspired, I think. So I do quite like their second album, and On the Seventh Day God Created Master, but I kind of prefer the older style. This is getting a bit too complex and tricky, and I don't know. The simpler stuff on this I much prefer. It's great stuff. All right, number 10 was a bit dodgy, I got to say. We're talking about the band Winter, New York, sort of kind of death doom, like very Celtic Frost influence, bit of amoebic sort of thrown in. Not really that deathy. They just got sort of growly vocals, so bleak, horrible sounding doom sort of stuff. Now, originally I thought, oh yeah, Into Darkness, that came out on them. Nuclear Blast, no worries, but no, it didn't actually. It came out originally on Future Shock recordings in 1990. The version that I had a burn of for donkey's years before I finally got this Nuclear Blast repress. Yeah, that was from Nuclear Blast, so I always assumed it was that, but no, apparently not, so that doesn't count, sorry. What does count, sort of, is their Eternal Frost EP that came out in 1994. Now, if you know Winter, this is actually their demo from 1989, but with an extra track, so sort of counts as a new release, kind of. Did come out on Nuclear Blast, though, I promise. So yeah, this is their 89 demo, self-titled demo. I think this has got like Scott Lewis from Brutal Truth drumming, much slower than Brutal Truth. It doesn't actually have him listed on this, but they had changed band members and so on by then. This also has 4 songs from the demo, one of which has been renamed, plus an extra sort of noisy ambient noise kind of song at the end, Manifestations. It isn't even bothered. They didn't bother labeling it on this. So yeah, these guys bleak as hell, really slow. This sort of EP or demo is a bit faster, I've got to say, which I kind of prefer. There's a few songs that are on the album as well, like Eternal Frost and what's the other one? Oh, Servants, I think. Servants of the Wardsman or whatever it's called. Warsman. And yeah, I actually prefer the Eternal Frost version on this, I've got to say. It's a slightly faster, a bit less bleak. Wild solos on this. It's bloody great stuff. This does also have the song Winter itself, which is a non-album kind of instrumental. Sounds a bit out of time in parts. It's slightly odd. I mean, I suppose it is a demo originally. Black Hole, which I think was called Hour of Dooms, a slightly faster one on here, pretty bloody tough. And as I said, the newish sort of song Manifestations is just like ambient noise. It's not too bad. I mean, honestly, you might as well track down this version, which has got the album and the EP on it. I mean, this one's like on Southern Lord. I think there's a heap of different presses. You're better off getting the album, honestly, but the EP still friggin' rules as well. I did see these guys at MDF one year, and it sound, like 30 years later or whatever, and it still sounded bloody tough as. Just as oppressive as you'd hope, and I think they were like the last band of the day. It was nicely painful, let's just put it that way. These guys did morph into Godin, I think. So they got back together in like 2012 or somewhere around there. They did just put a live album out from that era, so it'd be worth tracking down if you like these guys. But Godin sounds pretty similar. I still don't actually own any of their stuff. I've got to track that down. But yeah, this one, I was quite pleased to shoehorn these guys in because, I mean, the album's better really, but Friggin' killer, just bleak, horrible doom. I love it. All right, number 9, we go to Sweden. Yeah, this is one that definitely featured in my top 30 Swedish death metal albums. Hypocrisy with Osculum Obscenum from 1993. Yeah, killer bloody album, this one. This is Peter Tagrin's band. Honestly, I never really had Penetralia back in the day. I did have this pretty early in the piece, so I'm very used to this one, but honestly, Penetralia just doesn't do much for me. It's a bit one-dimensional, it's a bit thrashy as well, and whereas this is just pure death metal, friggin' heavy as hell. Much better songwriting, much better sound. I mean, after this, they went not as death metal, and yeah, I should give it a go. I'm well aware that they probably have some killer albums, but so far, this is all I need from Hypocrisy, I think. This is just really great dynamics. It's pretty bloody fast in parts, but it also has a weirdly thin sort of sound. Sounds a bit odd at first, but you get used to it pretty fast. One of the highlights for me is Massey Bromberg's vocals on this, just ridiculously deep and heavy, really powerful. Yeah, I still find it weird that he went on to Dark Funeral after this, but oh, sounds bloody fine here. I mean, these guys, along with Seance, are fairly obvious deicide worshippers from the Swedish scenes. Yeah, but it doesn't sound exactly like deicide. It's just got some hints of it, I'd say. Pleasure of Molestation's a great start. The title track's killer. For some reason, they cover like Black Metal by Venom on this. It sort of works, but it's a good sort of way to break up the album. I mean, they do it death metal, obviously, but it's still it's nowhere near as intense as their own songs. It slowly takes you out of it, I've got to say. It doesn't quite work, I don't think. What is it? Inferior Devotees has got like a kind of theory inquiry kind of moments in it, and weird solo. Yeah, this is just pummeling death metal. I love it. It's really great. All right, for number 8, we're going up to Canada. This is Cataclysm with their Mystical Gate of Reincarnation EP. Now, I could pick Sorcery, their album, because friggin' rules as well. But I don't know, I've always kind of liked this. It's nice, shortish, 21 minutes, just absolute insanity. This is death metal, but very technical death metal, hyperblast drumming, as they call it. And yeah, the obvious standout, though, is the just crazed ape vocals of Sylvian Horde, or whatever his name is. Really deep growl, and just sings these sort of rapid-fire bits that just sounds sort of in time with the really fast music in parts. All sorts of shit going on with him. There's really crazed high screams in, I think it's Shrine of Life. He almost sounds like if Chris Barnes was some weird hobo or... Oh, wait a sec. No. I am surprised that there's even lyrics of this, to tell the truth, because it sort of has the sound of just someone singing along, using their voice as an instrument without bothering to have lyrics. But yeah, there's lyrics. I think it's a real waste that he didn't continue. I mean, he's on this album, and he's on the one after that, I think, to lesser effect. But yeah, this one's just crazy. I mean, the music is bloody intense as well, really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, first 3 albums of Cataclysm and this are, well, first 3 releases, sorry, bloody great. Everything after that, yeah, nah. And not a band I'm following these days whatsoever, that's for sure. I'd be tempted to see him live if they guaranteed they were going to play some old songs. I think they'd probably play like one song off Sorcery if you're lucky. But yeah, this early stuff is just crazy. This is, as far as Canadian death metal goes, this is my number 1. It's better than Gorguts, better than Cryptopsy. It's just insane stuff. What is it? Frozen in Time, I think. Oh no, actually, it's not that. What is it? Mystical Plane of Evil. That's the one. It's got this killer like guitar and bass sort of solo trade-off thing. Shrine of Life is a bit sort of slower. Plenty of sort of chunky riffs, but the hyperblast kicks back in later on. But the highlight for me is the last song, The Orb of Uncreation. That's just so intense. Brutal blasting start. Some even more unhinged vocals. super killer sort of breakdowny bit, and then yet another vocal style. I don't know where he gets all these from, and a bit of death laughter, which you can never go wrong with death laughter. So yeah, it's just crazy, crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure this just got reissued on record. So I've had this CD for a long time with the old Modern Invasion sticker on it. Good work. So yeah, as I said, Sorcery friggin' rules as well. It's probably as good, if not better, but I don't know. There's something punchy and destructive about this. It's just totally unhinged, beautifully insane stuff. Alright, another one from my top 30 Swedish death metal albums. It's definitely in this one. Afflicted with their Prodigal Son album from 1992. This is weird, progressive sort of death metal. I mean, this is recorded at, Sunlight Studios with Thomas Skogsberg, the usual sort of style, but it does not sound like Left Hand Path particularly. I always think of this as an underrated gem of Swedish death metal. It's definitely one of my faves. Crazed sort of vocals, lots of really deep, understandable sort of ones, but also just weird, whacked out sort of screams. He kind of actually reminds me of old mate Sylvian from this, actually, in times. But yeah, it's nowhere near as intense musically as that. It's sort of odd. There's like weird psychedelic bits through it. It reminds me of Alchemist a bit. It's Middle Eastern-y sounding bits. I mean, it's still death metal. It's still pretty full on, but not compared to a lot of other of their colleagues at the time, that's for sure. It's a bit sort of proggy in parts that, I don't know, but they do it so smoothly, so well. It works perfectly. Now, they had a batch of demos, and this sounds a lot less raw than the demos, that's for sure. I love the newer song, Rising to the Sun. I mean, a batch of these songs are from the demo as well. I always love those silly pictures of them out in the on a farm somewhere, bloody tie-dye clothes on and so on. And if you're wondering, that's a reissue, but I do have the original CD on. This is a Nuclear Blast America one, so this is one that I had to double check my Relapse one. I hadn't already talked about this. So, but yeah, I did also ramble about this in my Swedish death metal one, so I encourage you to watch that one. So, but yeah, just odd. I've always loved odd death metal, and these guys do it perfectly. It's great stuff. All right, number 6, we're going to Germany for good old Atrocity with their Hallucinations album from 1990. It's another pretty early one in the whole side of things. So yeah, this is German kind of techish death metal, like, as I think, I can't remember what video, one of my recent response videos, I talked about this one, and yeah, their history after a couple of albums is not great. This album, their first album, bloody rules. It's sort of, yeah, bit tech, bit sort of early Pestilence, death sort of feel to it. The second album, Todesnacht, was in my top 20 Roadrunner one, so I love early Atrocity, but not much after that. This one I've always preferred way more over Todesnacht or Longing for Death. I don't know, it's just something about it. My good mate Andy was a big fan of these guys. I don't know if he used to write to them or something, but he had like, the old T-shirts with the logo and the eyeballs, and so yeah, I think a couple of Canberra guys did. So I always loved this. I had a copy of it pretty quick smart, and then tracked this down very rapidly, I think. So plus, of course, I've got the CD as well, which has got extra tracks. And yeah, I always love this album. It's weird. I mean, not in a sort of wacky way, just uneasy kind of way, I've got to say. It has really harrowing sort of lyrics about like child abuse and drug use. Friggin' intense at the time when I was, young, like 20-year-old or whatever, reading this, going, holy crap. Pretty insane sort of stuff. So, but yeah, this is another of those bands with a bit of a master feel to it. I think it's Fatal Step sounds a bit mastery. Hold Out to the End's always been one of my favourites. It's got this catchy sort of, I don't know, it kind of sounds like Human Remains almost, weird sort of bits and super catchy chorus. These guys just change speed at the drop of a dime, wild solos. It's definitely a bit of an atheist sort of feel to it, especially on I think it's the title track, Hallucinations. And yeah, this was recorded by Scott Burns at Morrisound, which I did not realise for many years. Definitely doesn't sound like too many other things that came out of there. The CD version also has the Blue Blood EP on the end of it, which I've always kind of assumed was the same thing, although it does sound quite different, really, and does say on the back that it's from the EP, but I always kind of thought of those tracks as part of the same thing, but they're even weird, especially when the fire burns over the sea. Oh, I love that. Strange stuff. So, yeah, they got a bit more tech after this, a bit less intense, but it's still pretty intense, but this is just off the wall at times, and yeah, I mean, can't go wrong with an H.R. Geiger cover like that as well. That's beautiful stuff. Never seen the full t-shirt of that. I would wear that, I think. So yeah, this is just German tech death. Love it. Awesome stuff. All right, most of these are kind of old, as you would imagine. This one's also from 1990. This is Incubus with their Beyond the Unknown album. Now, this is a reissue, on Nuclear Blast at least, which also has a version of Serpent Temptation, their first album. I think it's the redone version. I don't know. At any rate, Beyond the Unknown's the second album of this band. I think they were from Brazil originally and then moved to like Louisiana or something or other in America. So this is death thrash, you could say, or just really pretty damn brutal thrash. I think this is slightly, like the vocals aren't as full on as the first album, but the music's sort of leaning a bit towards death metal for my liking. This is a band that I'd heard a long time ago, pretty early in my metal career. This old radio station that I used to listen to, that I ended up doing a show on the same station later. But yeah, the Blitz, I used to sit there, the tape deck recording songs, and if it was a shit song, I'd stop it and rewind it back to the other one. So, and one of the good songs that I kept is our first song on this, Certain Accuracy, which is just tough as hell. I've always loved it. So there's the most amazing punchy guitar sound on this album. I don't know what the hell they did. Super energetic. The drumming's freaking killer as well, but just the guitar is so tough. Very much sounds like Beneath the Remains by Sepultura. I mean, they are from Brazil. This was produced at Morrisound by Tom Morris, so not exactly the same. I think Beneath the Remains was done in Brazil by Scott Burns, so his protege at least. But it's not quite as deathly as the first album, I don't think. But Francis sort of sings on this instead of the previous guy, Scott, I think, and doesn't sound quite as brutal, but it really ramps up the aggression, though. So Certain Accuracy is definitely my favourite. Curse of the Damned City's just catchy thrash. I love the solo. Massacre of the Unborn's like a anti-abortion song, and it's another bloody ripper. But the whole album absolutely rules. Now this is one that this is one of my grails to try and track down the LP version of this. I've always loved that cover art. It's just superb stuff. Plus, it's just great bloody album. I'd need it on record, like the original one. I mean, and this is a band that had to change their name to Opprobrium, I believe it's pronounced, mainly because of that stupid new metal band. But so you can get the reissue of this, with the wrong logo, and it's like, nah, I don't want to. I want the original one. One day I'll get it. The original Serpent Temptation's not even less easy to get. I mean, I could get Beyond the Unknown. It's on Discogs. I could buy it if I wanted to spend like $180 or whatever, but yeah, not yet. One day I'll pull the trigger probably, but the CD friggin' rules as well. So yeah, this is my number 5. Good old Incubus. Alright, you never would have guessed based on the shirt that I'm wearing, but number 4 is Macabre with Sinister Slaughter. It's from 1993. This is a very easy choice because they've only got 2 albums on Nuclear Blast. This one and the new one that, wasn't much chop. This one, friggin' rules though. I still don't really quite know how to categorize these guys. It's sort of like thrash, death, grind, punk. I think murder metal is a very fitting title for these guys. Just manic craze sort of style, which kind of really suits him singing about serial killers. So this opens with Night Stalker with old mate Dickie Ramirez on it. The classic Swear to Satan. Oh, it's beautiful stuff. Dennis the Menace, the drummer, is just busy and manic as always. I think it's the Boston Stranglers, a speedy one. I mean, there's very fast stuff on this. I do like the slower stuff, like What's That Smell, which is their first mention of old mate Dharma, who got his whole album on the next one. Zodiac's another favourite on this of mine. Was chunky start riff, just catchy as shit, mid-pace sort of riff that it has, and then Nefarious growling in the final kind of Zodiac, just weirdo stuff. I don't know what's on the inside. Just boring lyrics. This is just a recentish reissue where they managed to cut off half the Zodiac guy. Here's the original one, which, yeah, obviously it's a piss take on Sgt. Pepper with serial killers and macabre themselves. But yeah, there's some great songs on here. White Hand Decapitator. There's another killer one with Scary Gary on guest vocals for some reason. It's not quite as much nursery rhyme sort of stuff on this. I mean, there still is, but I think it's Vampire of Dusseldorf's another classic. You know, it's one of their hit songs, you could say, with the, you know, awesome sing-along chorus of I'm gonna strangle you and I'll slit your throat. Yeah, anyway. It's honestly, for me, it's a toss-up between these two, like Sinister Slaughter and Dharma for the probably my most listened to. I mean, I love Gloom and Grim Reality as well, the earlier stuff. All of it just beyond awesome. Dharma, I do need this on record, I think. I've got the CD, but it's just great fun stuff. But yeah, this is just really weird music when you break it down. No one sounds like these guys. I mean, partly because Corporate Death's got some interesting vocals. Very weird. It's sort of half gruff, half sort of screamed vocals. Definitely an acquired taste, but it's just constantly changing music played by really bloody talented guys. You know, I mean, it's even got like weird acoustic bit of like Mary Bell, and yeah, this album, just crazy, crazy stuff. I love it so much. Alright, number 3, back to Sweden yet again. More Swedish death metal, who would have guessed? Dismember, Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. Now, I mean, their first 5 albums were on Nuclear Blast, so I could pick any of them, really. But this one, who are we kidding? This is the best one by miles. I do very much enjoy Indecent and Obscene, but yeah, after that, not quite as good, I got to say. This is just a bodgy Back on Black reissue. The real CD's up there somewhere, but couldn't be bothered standing up. So this album, what do I need to say? It's one of the Swedish death metal masterpieces. And yet again, third on my list. Sorry, Simon. Honestly, this one I didn't have initially. I had Entombed and Grave and plenty of other bands, but for some reason it took me a while to get this. So eventually got there. Enough people said, it's bloody awesome. I don't like the guitar sound on this quite as much as Left Hand Path. It's sort of a bit too much bottom end, or I don't know, it just sounds odd. Maddie's vocals, though, sound great. He's a killer bloody singer. You can grow really well, but it's just mostly just this throaty raw. Oh, it's beautiful stuff. I mean, all the songs on this are killer. Override to the Overture. The second half of that, when the sort of chunky riff kicks in and the solo, untouchable. Skinner Alive is another masterpiece, you know, classic Skinner fucking alive. Every song on here rules, really. I've always been used to the extra one or the one with extra tracks that has Death Evocation, which is an old demo song that just untouchable. Dismembered's another of my favourites. It's a bit more classy, slower sort of melody to it. And I mean, that cover art by Dan Seagrave probably doesn't look very good on this shitty Back on Black reissue. It's probably one of those things I need to get an OG one of, I think. This was banned in Australia for a while, along with Pungent Stench and Autopsy and Cannibal Corpse. So, yeah. And those photos, what's on the inside? More standing around in our jeans, covered in blood of some variety, or dye or something. Yeah. Killer, untouchable Swedish death metal. It's deemed a masterpiece for a very good reason, because it is. Number 2, Sweden yet again. Who would have guessed? Dissection with their Storm of the Lightsbane album. Thankfully, their first album, Somberlane, came out on No Fashion, not Nuclear Blast, so I didn't have to pick between them because that's a hard bloody choice. But this second album, this is probably the best album of this whole lot, really. It's definitely better than number 1 in many ways, but yeah, it's friggin' killer. Still not quite sure if these guys are black or death or melodic death, whatever the hell they are. It's because it ain't the usual sort of Black Death sort of style. It's really a perfect combo of, melodic but tough death metal, not too harsh black metal. It's, yeah, hard to pick, really. I mean, songs like Soul Reaper, pretty bloody black, but then you got these nice sort of acoustic bits on Unhallowed that remind me of, like, Somberlane. I've always loved the drums on this. They're just so powerful, great sound, and he's just an interesting player. The sound on this is superb, probably a bit better than Somberlane, but not that there's anything that wrong with Somberlane. Dan Swano, well, he engineered it, the band produced it, but I'm always a bit sus when there's like someone as pro as Dan Swano just engineering. It's like, maybe he had a few pointers, but obviously the highlight on this is probably Where Dead Angels Lie, which is, yeah, a masterpiece. It's a bit slower pace than the usual sort of style, but just so many killer melodies. It's an amazing song. We used to play it on radio all the bloody time. It's got that nice little acoustic break and then hellish sort of high scream and tremolo version of the main riff. Oh, it's so bloody good. I think Dan Swano is actually credited with screams on this, so I'm assuming it's him with the balls in the vice sort of high bits. I love the combination as well with this from Where Dead Angels Lie to Retribution, Storm of the Lightsbane. It's just fast and furious start. Just settles in nicely. Thorns of Crimson Death's another ripper. Just lots of blasting and just such energy. This album is untouchable, really. Like, nothing I've heard since is as good in that distinct sort of style that they have. It's even got a nice little closing piano bit that always kind of reminds me of the Necromantic, the movie theme song. And yeah, this album, untouchable. Like, as I said, Somberlane could touch it pretty well, but it's the same band. So, and again, these guys are like probably not even 20 when they did this. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, untouchable. Amazing stuff. And the number 1 Nuclear Blast record is from 2000 is Skyclad and their Pokemon album. Oh, what a ripper. Nah, just kidding. It's Pungent Stench. Bean Cod Buttering from 1991. Austrian perverts. Beautiful stuff. Now, I mean, these guys, not the fastest, they're not the most brutal, but for me, it's the perfect mix of just groove and death metal. They're so bloody good. Now, for these guys, I mean, I love For God Your Soul, For Me Your Flesh. This is a reissue one, but has a cooler cover. But yeah, the songwriting on this is just that much better. I do very much like their God, what's this even bloody called? Oh, Club Mondo Bizarro, which is a lot more groove, but a bit less brutality. I mean, I still love this album, but yeah, overall, this just fits the bill perfectly. It's like I like death metal with a lot of groove, and this is it. This is the grooviest bloody shit you'll ever get. It certainly helped for me for loving these guys because they did tour Australia on the Dirty Rhymes EP, so I got to see them twice back then, and then they toured another couple of times at the very least. Plus I saw them in the States as the Church of Pungent Stench or whatever they were called at the time. So I've seen these guys a lot, and I mean, live this stuff goes even better, but this album, it's just the perfect blend. Probably doesn't help that Alchemist used to cover the song Smash as well, so yeah. On this killer chainsaw sort of guitar sound, wild solos. I always loved the drum sound of Alex Wank on here. It's just his snare is just so snappy sounding. I love it. Vocals are completely over the top, but quite understandable, really. This is a Porgy Back in Black reissue, but hey, I do have the original, of course. Favorite songs on here. I mean, every song is amazing, but Games of Humiliation is definitely one of my favorites. It brings the doom. It's like slow as hell. It just has this most ridiculous, beautiful outro bit where it's like this nice acoustic guitar, really slow, sort of beautiful bit with Martin just droning over the top of it like a maniac. It's ridiculous but beautiful. I think it's And Only Hunger Remains is another of the slow sort of banger ones, but there's plenty of speed on here. Smash and Brain Pan Blues are both fast, sort of not overly blasty or anything, but fastish. I think Sputter Supper, which I always thought was Splatter Supper, but Sputter Supper has just the grooviest sort of breakdown bit and growled vocal section. It's gold. And then does lead into a mega riff one. I always love Splatterday Night Fever's just this killer like start with weird, watery, horrible sounding vocals and just the riff in the background is so cool. So yeah, this is I mean, look at that album cover as well. Supposedly a head cut in half kissing itself. It's art, kiddies. It's not real. This album always puts a smile on my face. I've listened to this, hundreds of times. It's untouchable. It's beautiful stuff. So this is my number one. None of that bloody Skyclad crap. Pungent Stench all the way. So that was my top 20. Now, if you're an old goose like me, you'd be sitting there going, what the hell? You missed heaps of bands. What the hell? Now, there's a batch of Nuclear Blast bands I'm just not that familiar with, I've got to say, so I couldn't really just jam them in the list. Like Impulse Manslaughter was one of their very first bands. Supposedly legendary band I've never owned a thing of. So, same with Righteous Pigs. I've heard their stuff. Never quite grabbed me, but I'll give them another go. Same with Abomination. It's another Speckman one. Never heard that. Now, I do have a bit of stuff. There's like a ton of other death metal bands that they put out, like Brutality. This is a promo that I've owned for donkey's years of in mourning, that I listened to just before and went, oh shit, that's really good. I've been listening to that for bloody years. So, yeah. I don't have the first album, Screens of Anguish, either, which also sounds pretty friggin' killer. So maybe I should do a revised version of this when I get around to getting some of these bands. I've owned this Monstrosity promo for bloody donkey's years, but barely really listened to it. Same with like Revenant and Resurrection. They're just bands that I'd never had a copy of, so couldn't really tell you now. And I mean, there's also Gorefest, who I made the mistake of buying this album, obviously well after their good albums, and put this on and went, oh, what the hell? So for some reason I don't have early Gorefest either. That probably would have made the list, so I'll get there. Now, there is a batch of honourable mentions as well, and one thing I like about Nuclear Blast is they used to send out a lot of promos. I got heaps of old promos, Therian, Pain, Nightingales. This one I don't really like. I think this might be the only Gorgoroth album they put out, maybe, and it's patchy because of this is so kind of average. I never really got into Gorgoroth until recently, and it's like, oh damn it, the first two albums were killer. Agatha Damon, I haven't listened to this in donkey's years, so they were good. I never really had that many compilations of Nuclear Blast. I got this one, which is Death is Just the Beginning 3. Obviously, there's a 2 and a 1 before that, but this one I think I got because this is when they were like aligned with Relapse as well. This has got like Mortician and Dead World and lots of Relapse bands as well. I think the only other one I could find was this Call of the Dark, which is like gothy sort of bands, and it's got Moonspell on there and The Gathering and Tiamat. Lots of bands that aren't even on bloody Nuclear Blast. But yeah, there's a batch of sort of honourable mentions as well. One of the current bands that they have that could have made it on, probably should have for this, is Memoriam. I think this is their third album. I don't know. This is the one that I think I really like. Like, they're a bit hit and miss. It's sort of like Dudes from Benediction and Bolt Thrower doing pretty much that sort of style. Yeah, they're hit and miss. I think this is the one I really like. I mean, this Chemist band are pretty good as far as their slightly newer ones, even though this is probably 15 years old. I mean, they put out heaps of decent 7-inches back in the day. I mean, this is not on Nuclear Blast, but Divine Eve put out a 7-inch that's on this compilation that rules. I mean, there's Melakesh stuff's pretty damn nice, and yeah, those ones aren't too good really. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. I do own a Disharmonic Orchestra album that Not to Be Undimensional Conscious out in the shed somewhere, although I've already looked for it and couldn't bloody find it, so it's somewhere. But originally that was on my list, and then I listened to it and went, oh, that's right, it's got that rap song now. Sorry, boys. I mean, they did a Pyogenesis stuff as well. That's not too bad. I think that new Pallbearer, which I still haven't actually tracked down, is on Nuclear Blast, so maybe I'll grab that. I mean, Lock Up have a couple of albums, they're pretty reasonable. So, yeah, they're getting there. I mean, and they do have a lot of, bands that were better in their early days kind of ones. It's like Paradise Lost. Probably should have bung the new Nile in that list. I just did. Whoops. Suffocation are on them these days. My Dying Bride, Grand Magus, but even Slayer put an album out, which isn't going on my top 20 list, unfortunately. So there's a bunch of stuff that just is in the nope pile. Still haven't really clicked with that Gate Creeper band. New Enslaved, it really doesn't do much for me, I gotta say. Meshuggah, I've never been a giant fan of. I mean, they even put out, I think, Death, The Sound of Perseverance, maybe that came out on Relapse. I thought maybe that was Nuclear Blast. Never did much for me. And, of course, the Aussie sort of legends. They made famous Aussie band Mortification. Never did a thing for me. So, yeah, they're all nopes. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm very happy with Nuclear Blast. They've put out some killer stuff over the years. And again, that's just my list of top 20 ones. I'd be very interested to see your lists. Feel free to yell at me below on, how the hell did you miss this band or that band? Because, yeah, it's I probably did miss a couple, but it's all good fun. So, but yeah, Pungent Stench, number 1 all the way. Thanks for watching. See yous.